Hi there and welcome to TechPlower. The LG G7 ThinQ has a lot of camera settings and features, but what do they all do? Let me show you. This video will be quite long, but don't worry, I've time-coded the whole video for you in the description, so you can jump into any section you like. So let's start. First of all, the LG G7 has two cameras on the back, both 16 megapixels, one with a standard lens with 77 degrees field of view and the other one with a wide-angle lens with 107 degrees field of view. At the front we have a single 8 megapixel camera. You can easily switch between the different lenses with the on-screen controls. For the standard lens you can click the single tree icon, and if we take a photo, the view looks like this. Switching to the wide-angle lens, we of course get much wider field of view. You can clearly see the difference in the photo. So now we know where the cameras are, but what can they do? Let's start with the settings for the back cameras. We tap here and we see a lot of different settings. At the bottom there's a help menu that gives a nice overview of most of the features the cameras offer. How to take a photo, quick camera settings, portrait mode, AI cam and manual modes, both for photos and videos. We have the Cine video and food mode. Then we have the slow motion video and Panorama, which is only available in portrait. Flash jump cut, which creates a GIF of up to 20 photos with 30 seconds apart. Then we have time-lapse video, and finally we have 360 panorama shots. So let's go through these settings. The first option is super bright camera. So if we select that, we have three options: manual, auto and off. This super bright mode can come in handy if we are taking photos or videos in low light situations. Then the camera tries to brighten up the image to get more detail in the shot. Next we have HDR or high dynamic range. This mode tries to get consistent exposure in a picture using multiple exposure techniques. Here we have the option of auto, on and off. Next we have the steady recording option, which helps stabilize video recording, but it is not available when shooting in 4K. It can easily be turned off and on by a single switch. Then we have the live photo option. This option will take a short video right before you take the photo until right after you've taken the photo. That is turned on like this and then turned off the same way. Next we have the cheese shutter that takes photos when certain keywords are said. We can enable this by switching it on here. Then we go back to the camera and simply say LG, cheese, whiskey, smile, and as simple as that, the camera automatically takes photos. Next up we have tag locations. That setting simply tags the photos with the GPS coordinates where they are taken. We can of course turn that off like this, but I want to have it on. The grid option gives us a visible grid in the viewfinder. So if you turn that on, we can now see that we have two horizontal and two vertical lines that form a grid. If we go back to the settings, we can simply turn off the grid setting, and then we won't have any grid lines in the viewfinder. Let's go to the settings again. Here we have the Add Signature option, which adds your own watermark to your photos. We can turn that on, and then we can set the signature by clicking here. Here we can write the signature we want, and we can also select the style of the signature. Of course, I've set TechPlower as my signature, and I've chosen the LG Smart for the style of the signature. Now we can click Add and see how it looks. As you can see, when we take a photo, we get the TechPlower signature at the lower right of the photo. I thought this also worked for videos, but when I tried it out, the signature was not applied to the video. So now we know. The signature feature can then easily be turned off by going back into the settings and switch it off. So now I've covered the settings in this list, but we have more settings to go through on this side. The first setting here is full vision. If we check out the viewfinder, we only see the view on part of the screen in this rectangle. But if we go to the settings and turn full vision on, we can see that the viewfinder is now displayed on the whole screen. This way, we see the whole frame of the video or photo. Then we can simply go back to the settings and turn the full vision off. The next settings are still photo resolutions. There are quite few of them. We have 4x3 in 16 megapixels, 4x3 in 8 megapixels, 16x9 in 12 megapixels, 16x9 in 6 megapixels, 18.9 by 9 in 10 megapixels, and there's more. We have 18.9 by 9 in 5.1 megapixels, and we have 1 by 1, like the Instagram style, in 12 megapixels, and then finally we have 1 by 1 in 3.4 megapixels. So these are all the resolutions for still photos. But of course we have video resolutions as well, and they are also quite few. We have UHD or 4K in 16 by 9 aspect ratio. We have Full HD 1080p in 18.9 by 9. Then we have Full HD in 16 by 9 and 60 frames per second. And we also have Full HD in 16 by 9 in 30 frames per second. Then we have HD 720p in 18 by 9 by 9. And we have one more resolution, HD in 16 by 9 aspect ratio. So those were all the video resolutions. The last setting on this side is the timer feature. We can of course have it off as it is now, but we can set it to 3 seconds like this. So if we go to the viewfinder and click the shutter button, we will get a 3 seconds countdown before the photo is taken. As simple as that. We can then tap the timer button again in the settings, and then we get 10 seconds countdown. Let's see it in action. We click the shutter button as before. Wait for it. And there it went off after 10 seconds. If we go to the settings again and click the timer the third time, then it is off. So these were the settings for the back cameras. But let's check out the different modes on the right hand side. So if we click the modes button, we can see that we currently have the auto mode selected. So in the auto mode, we have different lens options on the left in the viewfinder. We have the Google lens that can identify text and objects and search for those items if you tap them. But since I have the phone currently in airplane mode, this lens won't search anything. But it's quite neat. Next we have the portrait mode that tries to blur the background behind the object you select on the screen. As you can see here, we can even control the intensity of the blur effect. Drag the slider all the way down for no blur, or you can drag the slider all the way up for maximum blur. The last lens, if we go back here, is the AI cam. The AI cam should be able to recognize some objects, as you can see on the screen. Table, wood, parking, glass, material, and more. In this way, it tries to find the best settings for the scene you're in. So if we go back to the modes, we have the manual mode. Here we have a lot of features. If we start up here, we have the exposure level graph. That shows us the exposure of the view. If I do like this, you can see it a little bit better. This graph also shows the aperture that is being used, f1.6 in this case. Next in the line is the white balance. It can be on auto as it is now, but we can manually change the white balance by dragging the slider down to get more cooler view, or drag it up for more warmer hue. So that was the white balance. Then we have the focus, which is now set to auto, which automatically sets the focus on the object we tap on. Here we also have manual focus. Then we get this slider that can be used to decide whether the focus should be close or far away. Down here we have a neat feature called focus peaking. That tells us what parts of the image are in focus by showing a green outline on those objects that are in focus. To go back to the autofocus, we simply tap the auto button down here. The autofocus has 9 focus points. I'm not sure you can see it, but there are 9 focus squares in the view. We also have a level indicator that shows us if the camera is correctly leveled or not. Next up is the exposure control. We can drag the slider down for less exposure or drag it up for more exposure. Then we have the ISO level. It controls the light sensitivity of the image sensor. This means the more light you have in your scene, the lower the ISO level can be set. So we can set a higher ISO level and the image gets really bright since I'm in a well-lit area. Then we can lower it and then it gets even too dark for this scene. Next we have the shutter speed. It controls the time it takes the aperture blades to close. So more time gives more light to the image sensor, providing a brighter picture, but more risk for motion blur. And we have a slider for that. Normally, when we take a picture, it only takes a few milliseconds. We press the shutter button and it's done. If I decrease the shutter speed, it takes even a shorter time, but produces a much darker image. But if we increase the shutter speed, it takes longer time to take the photo and the image gets much brighter. Here it takes 1.3 seconds for the aperture blades to close, providing much more light to the sensor, which could work well in dark scenes. Let's say we have changed the controls a lot and we want to go back to the original control values. It's really simple with this nifty button up here that resets the values when we tap it. If we look down here, we have the Graphy button, which gives us predefined scenes for all these settings. So here we have one for night sky and we have one for night view. Both are obviously for darker scenes than mine. We have street and another street scene. We have people, lighting, that actually works well for my scene. And we have cafe. So these and more are kind of predefined filters for the settings. So we're finished with the still photo modes, so we can go to the manual video mode. Now we see that we get the full frame on the display. And up here, instead of the exposure control, we have the left and right audio channel indicators. We also have the current resolution that is now full HD 30 frames per second. And we have the same as for the still photos, white balance, focus, exposure control, ISO levels, shutter speed and the reset button. But we don't have the Graphy option here with the predefined scenes. But we have one additional control here. That is the audio control. So if we tap that, we get gain control to control the sensitivity of the microphone. We have low cut filter, which can be used to minimize background noises. Then we have the LMT that sets the recording distance. So depending on the distance of the subject you're recording, you increase or decrease the value. The last thing here is the wind noise filter. That should limit the noise produced by wind in the surroundings. Otherwise, we have all the same settings as for the still photos. So let's go back to the modes. The next one is the Cine mode. And according to LG, the Cine effect uses lookup tables as a way to alter colors in a video using mathematical formulas created with help of film professionals to record high-quality videos resembling major motion pictures. Yeah, we'll see about that. If you hit record here, we see that both the color scheme and the view has changed. We now have a point zoom feature here that enables us to get really smooth zooming, just by dragging the slider down to zoom in or up to zoom out. If we go to the modes again and select the food mode, unfortunately I don't have any food here, but as you can see, if we focus on the fish, we get more enhanced colors to pop up the picture. We can manually change the white balance in this view as well by dragging the slider up or down. Now let's look at the slow-mo mode. In this mode we can take video in 720p in 240 frames per second. So let's try that out by starting the recording. Let's get a ball rolling in the view and a car driving by, and then turn the recording off. And let's see what we got. As you can see here, we can change the playback speed. By clicking the timeline, we can select different speeds for the playback. We have 1/8 of the speed, 1/4, half speed and normal speed. In addition, we can change where the slow-mo part begins and where it should end. So let's see how it looks in 1/8 of the speed. We see that the ball goes really slowly compared to the real speed of it. If we change the speed to 1/4, we clearly see that the ball rolls faster now. So being able to change both the speed and the position of the slow-mo part is really good. Next up we have Panorama mode. That one only works in portrait orientation. So with the Panorama we can catch a wide-angle photo by starting the shot and moving the camera to either side and then press stop when you have reached the end of the scene you want to catch. And this is how it looks like. The last mode here is Flash Jump Cut. This one makes a GIF to up to 20 photos with 3 seconds apart. So let's try it out with the ball and the car, but only with 4 photos. Let's take a clean photo first. The next one with the ball. The third one with the car in the play. And the last one with the ball in another position. And this is the resulting GIF. Very short. Down here we can select how many photos should be taken to produce the GIF. At maximum 20 photos. Now let's take a look at the filters. We have, for example, Urban, and with this slider we can choose the intensity of the filter. Drag it down for less filter and up for more intense filter. Let's take a picture. And this is how it looks like. We have a filter called Jade that gives a blue hue to the photo, like this. Then we of course have a black and white filter that looks like this. We can reset the filter by selecting the None option at the top. There are 17 filters in total. Urban, Vivid, Violet, Vintage, Jade, Nostalgia, Black and White, 1839, Bright, Classic, Mellow, Cool, Calm, Deep, Romantic, Pure and Chic. All these filters can also be applied to video as well. In addition to the filters, we have these stickers. We can select various stickers, but to use them, the camera needs to find a face. I'll show you how it works with the front-facing camera later on. The last thing for the main cameras is the flash control. So if it is off, it's like this. If we tap it once, we have the always on setting, and it turns out like this. And then the third flash mode is the auto mode. So the camera decides itself if the flash is needed or not, like this. When we are taking video or photos, we can use pinch to zoom. We can zoom in like this. And then we can zoom out like this. When zooming out, we are still on the standard lens. But if we zoom out even further, it will automatically go to the wide angle lens. And the result is like this. So let's switch to the front-facing camera and check what settings we have there. We of course have some of the same settings as for the back cameras, such as steady recording, live photos, cheese shutter, tag locations and add signature. We also have the help menu here, but we have some additional settings as well. The first one is the selfie shot that is currently set to gesture shot. This setting allows you to make a fist in front of the camera to take a photo, like this. And if you make 2 consecutive fists in front of the camera will take 4 photos, like this. The other selfie shot setting is auto shot. In this mode, the camera will automatically take a photo when it detects a face. It does not detect my face behind the camera, but now it does and takes a photo. The Save as Flipped setting allows us to choose whether the images are saved as seen from the viewfinder or flipped. Now the setting is on, so if we take a picture, we'll see that the photo is flipped compared to what we saw in the viewfinder. So if we turn this feature off and take another picture, the photo is facing the same way as the viewfinder showed it. So for the settings to the left, we have the full vision as for the back cameras, but in the photo resolution option we don't have as many modes. We only have these 4 resolutions: 4:3 in 8 megapixels, 16:9 in 6 megapixels, 18.9:9 in 5.1 megapixels, and 1:1 in 6 megapixels. The same applies for the video resolutions. We only get 3 resolutions here. Full HD in 16:9 aspect ratio in 1080p, HD in 18.9:9 in 720p, and finally HD in 16:9 in 720p. Then of course we have the same timer functionality as before. If we go out of the settings and check out the modes we have, we see that we only have 2 modes to choose from. The auto mode that we've been using and the flash jump cut that takes the GIF photos. To use the auto mode, we go to the viewfinder and we can see that we have the same lenses as before. Google Lens, Portrait and AI Cam. We also have the different filters as well as the stickers that we can try out now, since now we have a face it can detect. Let's try this one. Yep, it works. Let's try one more sticker. The teddy bear. Works like this, like a charm. It is kind of like the Snapchat filters, but not as advanced. In addition to these stickers, we have the face smoothing or beauty filter. If we have the slider all the way to 0 and take a picture, we can see all the details in my face. But if we slide the smoothing slider all the way to the top, you see right away that it smooths out my face. Let's take a picture and see the result. Yep, the face is much smoother with the beauty filter on. As default, I think it was set to 2. So LG really wants some smoothing effects in the selfies. When using the front-facing camera, we don't have a flash, but the phone uses its display as a flash. We can set the flash here. Let's try it first without the screen flash. Pretty good photo there. Tapping the flash icon once turns the flash to on. Let's see how that works. We see that my face gets a little bit brighter here using the screen flash. Tapping the flash icon again, we turn off the flash. No auto mode here as with the back cameras. Every time you take a photo, you get some shortcuts to share options at the bottom left on the screen. So if you check down here when I take the next photo, I directly get the option to share on Facebook. And if I click this option, I get more social media options to choose from, depending on the apps you installed. And if I click the 3 dots, I get even more options such as sharing on Instagram, Snapchat and more. So that's pretty neat. For both the back cameras and the front-facing camera, you can use the volume buttons to take photos. You can use the volume up button or the volume down button. Whatever you like better. And if you hold either of the buttons down, the camera will take multiple consecutive photos, up to 30 photos. While shooting a video, you can always take a picture as well by tapping the camera button below the stop button. So these are the settings and features the cameras on the LG G7 ThinQ offer. If I missed any settings or features, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to explain them there. I really hope you liked this camera settings and features overview, and hopefully it helped you figure out some cool things to do with the cameras. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. See you in my next video.